Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu wa na'udzu billahi min syururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. May yahdihillahu fala mudhillalah wa may yudlilhu fala hadiyalah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam tabaraka wa salama tasliman kasiran kasira amma ba'd. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Aman ahsanu qawlan mimman da'a ilallah wa amila salihah wa qala innani minal muslimin. My dear brothers and respected elders and sisters, Allah is so merciful and compassionate. So, whenever we want to do anything, it is advisable that we start with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, in the name of Allah, the most compassionate and the most merciful. Why Allah asks us to remember Him as the most compassionate and the most merciful? What's the reason? What's the reason? There must be reason. Every orders of Allah given, there must be some wisdom. Without wisdom, the order will not be given. All the orders of Allah has been given with wisdom, the wisdom of Allah. In other words, if we obey any orders of Allah, we are wise. We become a person who is wise. And if we disobey the order of Allah, we become the person who is unwise. Allah has wisdom because He has knowledge, and His knowledge has no limit, and therefore His wisdom has no limit. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give knowledge and also wisdom to His messengers of Allah, to those whom He loves. So every messengers of Allah, Allah give them knowledge and wisdom. So the knowledge that the prophets of Allah will have is the knowledge which Allah has given to them, no more than that. But the knowledge of Allah is the knowledge which has no boundaries, no limit. And therefore the wisdom of Allah has no boundary and no limit. So we obey the orders of Allah, we are treading the path of attaining knowledge and wisdom. We disobey the order of Allah, we are treading the path of ignorancy and having no wisdom. So that's why to know what Allah wants and what Allah do not want is called ilm. To do according to what Allah wants and to prevent ourselves from doing what has been forbidden by Allah is wisdom. So knowledge and wisdom, these are two qualities which are with the prophets of Allah. Among all men, the most wise and the most knowledgeable among mankind are the prophets of Allah, or the messengers of Allah. And how are we going to have that also? We are not a prophets of Allah. Then how are we going to attain knowledge? We must follow the prophets of Allah. We must do the work of the prophets of Allah. You see? Once we do the work of the prophets of Allah, like the way they do, with the intention to please Allah, then Allah, we will attain finally the level of Iman as par with the prophets or more, and even though we are not prophets, since we have iman and faith towards Allah at par or more than we will be given the knowledge and the wisdom. Like me, I'm not a prophet, but I'm doing the work of prophets, Muhammad SAW, the work of all other prophets for a very long time in terms of the span of our lifetime, 60, 70. So if I do the work of prophets, reach of to 30 years, it's quite a long time. As a result of doing the work of prophethood, the works of the prophets, in the way which the prophets have done, with the intention to please Allah, Allah has given me knowledge and wisdom. Do you believe me or not? Or you are still thinking, oh, are you sure, Prof, you are telling the truth? I'm telling you the truth. The signs, the evidence that I'm a wise man and a man of knowledge is I've been given the tawfiq or the permission by the Almighty Lord to interpret His Quran, His book, 84 books. It's not easy job. One book is about 300 pages in average, 200 to 350 pages. It's not a small book. 84 books plus 7 books on hadith or fadilat. So that's not enough evidence to show to all of you in the whole world that I'm a man of knowledge and certainly a man of wisdom, which these two qualities are given only to the prophets of Allah, but the work of the prophets of Allah are also being given to the followers of the prophets. What has been the mistake which we have committed all this while? We think that the works of the prophet is meant only for them, not for us who follow him. What do you mean by following him if we don't do the work of the prophet? We are told to obey, to follow. But we say we pray, but we don't do the work of the prophet. That means we don't follow him. We follow the way we likes, not the way we likes. We follow the way Allah likes. We have to follow the prophets, means we have to follow all what he has done, except when he say, don't follow me. On this case, for example, when the Prophet ﷺ, fast without having sahri or without having some food prior to Fajr time, which is not a sahri. We call it in Malaysia sahur. But the Prophet ﷺ, even when he found that there is no food in his house, then he fasts that day. The Sahaba want to follow him. He said, don't follow me on this case. Understand? The Prophet ﷺ can marry whoever he wants, how many he wants. That you cannot follow, of course. But other than that, we shall not mention specifically by Allah that is not for us, but by the Prophet ﷺ. We have to follow everything which the Prophet ﷺ have done and are doing, is doing, was doing. So he was doing dawah. It is very insensible to say that the work of the Prophet is not sunnah. Our so-called scholars, in the whole world, when they write books on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a book, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. You find in the book that it's not even mentioned about the work of dawah, the work of inviting people, not even mentioned. Not even praying also. It's not sunnah. In other words, they don't understand what sunnah means. Who teaches them this thing? Who have taught them this? that dawah is not sunnah? Who have thought that praying 5 times in the mosque with Jamaat is not sunnah? There are none in the book. The book only refer to all the small things like combing hair, having beards. And that's the reason as to why many Muslims are very particular in observing all this sunnah and not doing the work of dawah and not performing prayer with Jamaat in the mosque with congregation. The reason because even the scholars do not understand what sunnah means. I am amazed at their knowledge. They have studied so much. They learn Arabic. They read Quran. They memorize it. They memorize hadith, and yet they don't understand. That's why knowledge is not the same. He is not given knowledge, not given neither knowledge nor wisdom. All these people who learn Islam, but knowing all the orders of Allah, what's the hukum, and yet they don't understand sunnah. Sunnah is not only keeping beards, like the scholars of the subcontinent of India. They are so particular about having beards. They are not particular about doing the work of dawah, because to them the keeping beard is a very great sunnah. Great sunnah. But Mahathir, our Prime Minister Tun Mahathir, is Indian. His forefathers from India. Somehow he doesn't believe in having beards. He keep on telling everybody why they do not want to look handsome like me. Why you look young? I'm not keeping beard, he said. I'm so amazed at people like people who are still young but keeping beard. They don't look handsome, he said. Of course, Tun Mahathir is a person who has not given knowledge about sunnah. I can imagine, I can understand that that he don't understand sunnah. But I cannot understand the so-called ulama, the so-called alims who do not understand that da'wah is a sunnah. To do gash, to do jawla, to go and visit the people, to invite them to Allah, the non-Muslims to invite them to Allah, are not known as sunnah. It's amazing. It's something which so insensible, something that hard to accept, that you are so-called scholars of Islam, you write books, and in the books you call the title book the Sunnah of the Prophet, and in that book not even mention about the work of dawah and praying with Jamaat, with congregation. That's why all our scholars, or so-called scholars, are not doing dawah and not doing praying with Jamaat, not praying with congregation anymore. You can see very few. They pray with become imam. Otherwise they pray at their homes whenever they likes, because they don't regard praying with Jamaat in the mosque as sunnah. Doing dawah, doing gash, visiting the people to invite them to Allah is sunnah. They don't regard that. So similarly, they tell everybody, every Muslim, the whole world, since so long, I don't know since when, but never been mentioned in any kitab. So in other words, have never been in their knowledge that the work of inviting people to Allah is a sunnah. Isn't so? Do you find them telling in their books, Azri? No. None. You can check. They go and discuss all other matters, because you know why? They have learned from the Christians, from the Jews who have become scholars. The Jews who have embraced Islam with the intention to destroy Islam. They have learned from this so-called ulama, but they are actually munafiqin. They are actually non-believers. They pretend themselves to convert to Islam and having and learn Islam, learn Quran, learn Hadith, and teach the Muslim. And that's why all the Muslim scholars, the whole world which existed until today, are following what they have taught them from the early days. So now all the knowledge that we receive from all these scholars are knowledge that they receive from these Jews who have converted Islam with the intention to destroy Islam. So they teach these Jews who embrace Islam and with the intention to destroy Islam. They are the lecturers, the teachers in Azhar. In Azhar, the teachers in many higher Islamic institute of learning in all over the world. You can find out. You see. So in India, they believe that to wear beards a sunnah, very great sunnah. That you can't even become imam if you don't have a beard. To that extent, you must have beard. But actually, it is a sunnah, but it is not far. Of course, I'm telling you in terms of hukum, it is a sunnah which is highly recommended, which is called sunat muakkad. Actually, the hukum of having beard is sunat muakkad. Mahathir do not know this. He doesn't know anything about Islam. And he says something which is wrong, people follow. Some people follow. Some hate him. Those who love beards don't like Dr. Mahdi. He said, I know one person who appreciate and admire Dr. Mahdi. When I told him he doesn't like people who are having beard, he doesn't like him because he's from Bangladesh, He followed the Islam being taught in the subcontinent of India, Bangladesh, Pakistan. To them, having beard is supreme important, more than dawah. Dawah is nothing. To them, dawah is nothing. The whole Muslim scholars, the whole world, dawah is nothing. Praying with Jamaat in congregation is nothing. But beard. So our scholars in Malaysia, they don't believe as such. They say having beard is nothing. So they go clean shave. Yeah. They learn from Masr. They learn from Azhar. The one with beard learn from Deoband. But both are wrong. One extremely believe it to be far, like far. The other one, nothing. Actually, the hukum is sunat muakkad. It is highly recommended to have beard. But of course, it's not sinful not to have beard. And you cannot say those who don't have beard cannot become the imam. You can. This is not far. It's sunat muakkad. To pray tahajjud is highly recommended as a sunnah. This one they regard as sunnah. Tahajjud. But it is not far, it's a sunat muakkad. That means it's not sin if you don't pray tahajjud, but highly recommended. And that is what the status of having beard. So now everybody must have beard, like the Taliban. You can see the Taliban who are not having beard. Now the Taliban is taking over Afghanistan. The whole world is looking at it with great horror, and they were thinking that the horrific people have come to rule the Afghanistan and the world. The coming back of Taliban means the coming back of terror, because they used to understand like that, because they used to behave like that when they ruled Afghanistan. They used to become the ruler. Then the American comes, beaten them, drive them to the interior. So make a general election, then establish a democracy. I understand many years ago they have a government. Then now America have to leave because it cost them too much money to maintain Afghanistan. And Pakistan is not helping them because Pakistan go to China, borrow money from China, asking China to develop Pakistan. So during Imran Khan time, they go away from America. So America blame Pakistan for their defeat. And in other words, they've been defeated by even though the Afghans are not doing it, the Taliban not doing anything, but they are leaving. So when they are leaving, the Taliban is coming. No effort at all. So now when the Taliban so you must have beards. They will beat people if you don't have beards. Two things you must do following the Taliban. One, must have beard. The other, you must have turban. All the top people of Taliban, this must. The big turban and the big beards. Otherwise, you can't be in the first line of Talibans. You can see the way their turbans has been constructed. It was so heavy and so big, and with the tails so long. That's what they are portraying to the world, that a good Muslim must have turban and beard. Not praying, not doing dawah. Because to them, they learn from their scholars, that dawah is not the sunnah. Praying with Jamaat is not sunnah. The sunnah is beard and turban. See, they are not teaching the correct Islam. All the so-called scholars in the whole world are not teaching the correct Islam. I'm telling you. They are the instruments of the kafir. They are the instruments of those Yahud who have embraced Islam only to destroy Islam. They are the instruments. They have been used. There should be our sword to fight against the kuffar, but they are the sword. But the sword now has been used to kill Islam, and they have been successful. The Jew scholars who have embraced Islam with the intention to destroy Islam has been highly successful in destroying Islam. They destroy Islam by making the work of inviting people to good, forbidding people from evil, as to be not the sunnah of the Nabi. What a great mistake. How could they reach to this understanding when prophets are doing the work of dawah day and night? Day and night, it's in the Quran. How could they come to this level of understanding that dawah is not sunnah when all the prophets of Allah have been told by Allah in the Quran doing dawah day and night? Prophet, no. Allah says he doing dawah day and night. Rasulullah, Allah says in the day you are swimming in the ocean of men. Not it is a metaphorical statement which implies that he doing da'wah among men in the daytime. And our so-called scholars who have learned from those Yahud who have pretended to become Muslim only to destroy Islam, that dawah is not sunnah. And it's ingrained in the mind of the whole Muslim in the whole world since thousands of years that dawah is not a sunnah. We don't need to do dawah because that's the work of Nabi, but not sunnah. I see that they don't understand when it's the work of Nabi, it is a sunnah. Praying with Jamaat, with Congress, this has been performed by Nabi, is a sunnah. It's the obligatory sunnah, Sunnah can be sunat, it can be obligatory or non-obligatory. Having beard is non-obligatory sunnah, has been made obligatory. Who? The Taliban, in Afghanistan during their years of ruling prior to this, they used to force everybody, to have beards. Women cannot go outside the house. No work. I don't know, they will do it again now. Probably they learn, they make mistake. But we never know. No woman can go out from their homes. No woman can work and study. No. That's the understanding. Women must be at home. They are this source of evils. Because they will make men, So Afghanistan is on the now all these soldiers who worked during the time of the American when America was in control of Afghanistan, they are now, when the Taliban come, they just do not resist anything, because they are actually having no understanding. They love their people also, the Taliban. So American is leaving, okay. So they throw all their weapons and submit the whole country to Taliban. This is not a good news. But we do not know what Allah wants to do. You see? And these Taliban are being helped by the Qatar, rich country. Qatar is helping them, buying weapons for them. They got a lot of weapons. How can they attack Afghanistan and conquer without all the weapon, moving around? So they're conquering city after city, one by one, and the time will come and Afghanistan will fall to the Taliban. So this Taliban will rule with the knowledge that they obtain from the scholars who learn from those Jews who have embraced Islam to destroy Islam. That's why they learn that beards is supreme important, not Iman. They don't understand Iman is important. They don't teach the Muslim. Iman is important. In order to obtain Iman, you have to do the work of dawah, or the work of inviting people to good, forbidding people from. None of the scholars or the so-called scholars of Islam who have learned from those who are hypocrite Jews who pretend to embrace Islam but in actual fact to destroy Islam, that this is important. Iman and the work of inviting people to good, forbidding people. Because they learn hadith only. They don't learn Quran. They memorize the Quran. They don't understand the Quran. So the hadith has been manipulated by these scholars. Hadith can be changed, but not Quran. So all the scholars learn books of hadith, especially in India, Pakistan. There are so many muhaddisin. People say he's a muhaddisin, Shaykhul muhaddisin, Raisul muhaddisin. So naturally they understand the Quran? No. They only read hadith. Many are false hadith, which are being invented by the scholars of the Jews who have embraced Islam to destroy Islam. So they have written all the books. Their works has finished. Now we are just reading that books, the false books of hadith. Even Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, which are known by the Muslim as Sahih. Sahih means pure. Not even an hadith on the work of ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar. Not even a word, a hadith. When that is numerous ayat in the Quran telling the Muslim to do the work of ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna, but none in the hadith of Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. It means, how authentic is that book? We have to think. Who told us that this is the authentic hadith? It's all the bogus scholars of the Jews who pretend to destroy Islam. They are the one who told that this is authentic. Of course they can remember hadith. To remember hadith doesn't need to be a believer. To remember Quran also doesn't need to be a believer. But to understand it, to practice it, you need to become a believer. That's why many people who memorize Quran in Indo Parks, hadith, are all bogus. They don't have iman probably, but being regarded as so highly by the Muslims as scholars. And that's why they listen and they follow them blindly, and they don't do the work of da'wah. You know, they don't do the work of inviting people to good, forbidding people. They only recite the great kalimah, that's about all. So what happened if the Muslim only recite the kalimah and they don't do the work of inviting people to good, forbidding people? There will be no iman. And when no iman, they can only read the Quran. They can only read hadith, but never able to practice the hadith and the Quran. And that's why we are bogus Muslim. Only names. The whole world Muslim only names. Not the true Muslim who completely submit to the will of Allah. Now the whole Islam has been destroyed by the Jews, scholars who pretend to become Muslim. They wrote books, they lectures, they control the whole mind and understanding of Islam, and they let the Muslim learn from them. In this way, the Muslim follow their ulama, and the ulama has been made to follow the Jews scholars who pretend to embrace Islam, but actually they destroy Islam. So the end result of it, Islam is completely destroyed. You can't find even a space. You know, so Allah will not choose anyone from among them to become the name of Prophet Muhammad SAW. That's why I'm chosen. I'm not an alim who have been spoiled. All the alim scholars of this Muslim has been spoiled. You know, has been destroyed their mind by these Jewish scholars who pretend to embrace Islam, but actually they are enemies of Islam. They are actually destroying Islam. So they already become very successful, and the Muslim without knowing, you know, all of this happening to them, they become so weak people, because Allah will make them weak. This follow the kuffar. They don't have any value on Islam. They don't have any value on themselves. They follow the Jews and the Christians blindly, because there is no Islam in them. Only picture. Only the picture of Islam, not the true Islam. So the day has come, you know, when Allah is not choosing. The same as Prophet Muhammad SAW was not chosen, and the last Prophet of Allah is not chosen from among the Jew scholars, because they have been spoiled. He has to be chosen from the Arabs, whom to the Jews are idol worshippers, but the Prophet ﷺ did not worship the idol. Allah chose him, who never learned to school, never learned the Taurat, never learned the Injils. You know, pure and serene, pure, to become the Prophet of Allah. And similarly, I'm chosen because I'm pure. I'm not being influenced by the teaching of these bogus Jews scholars who pretend to enter Islam, but actually the enemies of Islam. Because I never go to madrasa. So you wonder why he's chosen. Why? Because I'm pure from all the mishak, from all the wrongdoings of the Jew scholars. That's why to make Islam arise again, you know, you can't choose from among the scholars, the so-called scholars, because they're already being intoxicated with the wrong doctrines. Islam can never be made alive. It has to be someone who is not being destroyed, polluted their mind, and that's why I'm coming to be chosen. Allah knows this long time ago. Not Allah knows, not He knows now. He knows all this will happen. And the last person whom I'm going to to fight for Islam is not a scholars. It's not an ulama, a professional who never learned from any madrasa, and yet I give him knowledge and wisdom. Because he's doing the work of the prophets. Not that because he just sit down like that, no. Because he's doing the work of the prophets. Like my prophet, with the intention to please me, I love him, I give him knowledge, I give him wisdom, the same as the prophets, and I use him as a means to eradicate and to fight the non-believers. And I make Islam to become, arise again to the peak, even though they don't like it, to the core of their hearts. This is the wisdom of Allah. At the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defeated all their enemies and make them to submit to the will of Allah, to become believers and to obey Allah and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay.